Okay, welcome back. We're going to talk a little bit now about rotating images using a slider. So far you've talked about basically translating images using a vector. You talked a little bit about reflecting pre-images over a reflecting line. So really this is the third transformation we've looked at, rotating images using a slider. I think you'll find sliders really valuable. So this is definitely one to pay attention to. We're going to begin by opening a new GeoGebra window. I have one here. And I want to hide the algebra view. Remember, do that with Control-Shift-A. I'd like to set the labeling options. We haven't talked about this before. But if you go under Options, I want to set labeling so that new points are the only thing that are labeled. You'll find that if you let this be defined automatically, you'll end up with labels you really don't want to have. The screen can get sort of cluttered up, so pick new points only. And then I like my font size to be rather large, about 20 points. Once you find settings that you like, you can go under the settings option here and save your settings so that when you open up a new GeoGebra window, the software remembers the settings. One thing worth mentioning here is that right now my grid, you'll notice that the tick marks count off by units of 2. It says 0, 2, 4, 6, 8 along the x-axis, 0, 2, 4, 6 along the y-axis. You can actually change that. Underneath the graphics button here, I've actually picked x-axis. And if instead of picking a distance of 2, you pick 1, notice that now my units go up by increments of 1. Do the same with the y-axis. Click on y-axis, pick a distance of 1. I'm going to save my settings. So now when I open up a new GeoGebra window, I have coordinates in this way. If you want to change them back, nice shortcut is to Control-click on the axes themselves, pick graphics, and it'll take you right back to the X and Y axis properties. You could just click this off. By default, the distance is 2. Change back to 1. This menu also lets you pick pi. If you're looking at trigonometry, things of that sort, it can be helpful to let those increment by pi. Anyway, this looks good to me. And what we're going to do is show the axes and the grid. They're both on. Remember that we can toggle these off or on by clicking on these buttons here. So once your axes are on, that's a good thing. And we're going to create a letter F using the polygon tool. We're going to actually create a polygon, then we're going to rotate the polygon using a slider. So first begin by going to the polygon tool, and I'm just going to click points to make a letter F. Here's my letter F. Uh-oh, I'd like that point A to be up a little higher. That'll work. Let's move these out. Here's my letter F. Now, if you don't like even these labels showing, recall that you can turn labeling on or off pretty easily by right-clicking on the object any object really. Go into Object Properties. Notice all these points. I can highlight all of them at once. And if I go to the Basic tab, I can unclick Show Label. What that'll do is hide all the labels at once. Recall I can also go under the Style tab, look at this, and change the size of the points globally. It's kind of handy. I'd kind of like to hide those labels. They kind of get in the way as far as I'm concerned. Let's close that window. Okay, so we have our letter F, and next what we're going to do is create a slider that controls the amount of rotation that we want, the magnitude of the rotation that we're going to create. So there's a second button from the right. You'll see the slider tool. So you just select that, and now it's waiting for me to click a point, a position to place the slider. Notice too that my tools have changed based on these tools right here have changed based on the fact that I have selected the slider tool. So I'm just going to click here in the window, and let's give the slider the name K. I like that. The slider is going to control an angle of rotation. So let's actually click on the angle tool. I suspect that the name will change to be a Greek letter. And we're going to let the increment, instead of being 1 degree, how about we try 45? Or 15, that's kind of nice. Then we'll see all the special angles, 30, 45, etc. Click Apply. So now we see the slider here on the screen. And when you drag on that, notice the increments go up by 15 degrees. Okay, so that looks good. And then we're going to use the Rotate tool now. If you recall, last time we used the Translate tool underneath the fourth button from the right. We're going to do the same. We're going to access the same suite of tools again, this time picking the Rotate tool. Rotate object around point by angle. So we're going to pick, it says rotate object around point by angle. Select object to rotate, then the center point, then enter the angle. So the object I want to rotate is this F. So I click on it, click on the center point of the rotation, and then click on the number of degrees. Let's see here. I haven't picked a center rotation yet, so I better do that first. I'm just going to pick a point here. Call it K. Let's try this again. Sorry about that. Go back to the Rotate tool. Click on the object you want to rotate. Click the center of the rotation. And then it prompts you for the angle. And in our case, the angle is going to be alpha. So if you click on this little Greek letter button, we can choose alpha from the menu and say OK. Remember, I can hit the Shift button to move the graphics view around. I'd kind of like to zoom out a little bit too. So I hit Command Shift minus. That's nice. And as I change alpha, you'll notice that the position of that image changes. It's kind of fun. You drag point K, It changes where the rotation is, where the center of it is. You might play around with turning the grid off. I kind of like to do that, and turn the axes off as well. Might think also about turning off the snap to grid. Feels a little smoother that way. So that's the rotate tool in a nutshell. Some things to try are exporting this as a dynamic worksheet. Wonder how you do that. And then changing the slider to rotate 90-degree increments. How might you do that? We'll talk a little bit more about exporting worksheets as HTML files in a little bit. And I encourage you to explore the object properties to change the properties of the slider. So have some fun, and we'll talk again soon.